All right. One of my favorite people with us here today is my friend and mentor and guide and support member on my team, Parrish Wilson. So I did some writing therapy with Parrish. Gosh, 2.5 years ago, I think.
Think we're at two. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In that
Yeah,
sense. Yeah.
yeah, it was around 2 years ago, right around, I think I was just coming back from Peru 2 years ago around now. So I will pass it over to you and I'll just let you introduce yourself to everybody and then we'll just get into a little chat about some stuff.
Great. Thanks, Wendy. Thanks. It's really lovely to get to chat with you today. And the work that we did together was it's really beautiful work. And I also just love how it tied us together a little bit because of course, as you know, like I'm tied to Costa Rica. My dad has been there for most of my life. And I remember when I first got we met at an event in Ottawa, but then when I got your email and you want to work together, it's like, oh yeah, like I love whenever I have a client in Costa Rica, it feels so I don't know, it just feels really tied for me, like everything's tied up the way it's supposed to. So yeah, it was a special thing to work with you in that sense. And like as we got on the call, as I mentioned, like, oh look, you're warm, right? It just makes me happy to see that because that's like, oh look, there it is. It's there.
Yeah. Yeah, we
Yeah.
get some of the jungle magic coming in through the camera at least, right?
Yeah, totally. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so I work in the writing therapy space. I like my career has been in mental health and writing and then they came together in a really beautiful way. So like our work one-on-one was really this writing experience for you of I know you're trying to sort things out, right? And get clarity. And it was such a cool opportunity to use writing in that way to gain clarity and to understand all the pieces that were happening, to for you to go through some of the stories that had already developed in your head and see them on paper. And it's just so interesting what we can learn and experience through the writing process, whether it's something we're going to publish or whether it's something that we're just keeping for ourselves for our own reflection. So yeah, that's kind of like the magic that captured me in my career. And yeah, whether I'm doing it like one-on-one like we did or in the groups that I run, it's a really special I don't know. It's just like it's just so magical, I think, what the writing can do.
It
So
was really incredible. I mean, it was an experience like I've never had before. I mean, I've done all kinds of different therapies and coaching and working with psychologists, psychiatrists, and coaches and therapists and energy workers, name a modality. I dip my toe in it to see what I could do for myself. And just the timing of it all was really perfect. And I think at that point, I had there was a seed planted in my head a long time ago that I wanted to write a book. I had no idea what it was going to be. I think, gosh, I the publishing company I registered is called A Touch of Indigo. I think I registered that publishing company for probably like 15 years ago, maybe.
wow.
And I
Cool.
didn't do anything, and I would get all these different ideas for a book, and there's a whole bunch of them that are just kind of sitting on the back burner. One book I want to write is called Oreos for Breakfast, and it's just about like nobody's perfect, and sometimes you just need to grab a few cookies in the morning to get your day going. Right? So that one's still just kind of stewing. And I'm copyrighted that one, by the way, just in case anybody's listening and decides they want to
You
try
come
and
up with
write a book.
really good book titles.
Yeah.
Like I really you have a capacity for book title creation that yeah, that's a really great one.
Well,
As is.
yeah. So
Yeah.
so anyhow, so I did that a little while ago, and then I just sort of left it and then moved along with life. And then, as you know, around the time when you and I reconnected again. I mean, we had met each other through the Women's Business Network in Ottawa. So
Mm.
we'd known each other and we'd been in different networking circles together. But when I first came to see you, it was after the event happened with Ben, right? So
Yeah.
it was after the life quake, and I had just gone back to Ottawa, and I had been working with a coach here, Sylvie. I wrote about her in the book, and that particular trip coming to Ottawa, I was like nervous as shit going back to Ottawa. Like I was having all this anxiety because it was, my first time going back after everything happened and facing family. And it was all around the time when I had done ayahuasca already at that point, like, where just first started using psychedelics to kind of help me wade through the the chaos that was my psyche at the time. And it was like, there's just so much, and I don't know what to do with it all. Right?
Yeah.
Like it was like, where do I go? What do I do? Like I was just in this place where, I had lots of support around me, but I was like, fuck, like, what do I do here? How do I ground, and how do I start making some sense of this? And what am I going to do? How am I going to move forward from this without repeating things? Right. So when you and I, we were together at a breakfast. I think we were
Yeah.
sitting
So
beside each other at tables beside each other at a little breakfast on Queensview Drive, this little place. And yeah, after we had our call, and you explained to me, how you worked, and it was different. It was different from anything I had done before, because lots of talk therapy. See, here's the thing: people can learn therapy, right? Like you learn what your responses are to a coach or a therapist. Like I could sit here across from a therapist right now and give all the right answers,
totally.
tricking myself, right? Like trying to get the approval of the therapist. Like, look at how good of a client I am, right? Like like that people pleaser runs deep, 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 right? Like even when you're in a position where you're trying to help yourself, it's like you don't want to let your therapist down, right?
Yeah. 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 This is how intense it is, right? How we want to be seen and control how we're seen. And yeah, we're even gonna lie to the therapist.
And how crazy is that? I was just
Yeah.
talking to somebody about this not that long ago, about how, because he was sharing things with me. He's like, I'm not even sharing this with my therapist. I'm like, you're doing yourself a disservice. Like, don't don't hide anything from the person who's there to support and help you,
Yeah.
right? Like you could be, I was working with a lady a little while ago, and there was a story, part of her story, something that she had um, diminished the importance of in herself. Like it was one of her own actions, and she was I just have to be careful. I don't want to give,
Yeah.
too much about what it was, but there was a person who there was something that she was doing. She didn't see the harm in it, but she never told anybody. And she shared it with me. She's like, "You're the first person that I've ever said this to." And it's something that she felt was small. But when she finally shared it with me, I was like, oh, okay, like it was perfect, because it had something to do with her communicating with an ex-partner and not thinking that it was a big deal because there was no physical anything. But what we were able to use that to see was that when she was feeling certain ways or not feeling certain ways, that's when she would start to have just a innocent conversation with somebody that's not She shouldn't have been, you know. But so then when she was finally, she's like, "You're the first person that I've ever told this to." She's like, "I feel safe with you." And it was perfect because had she not shared that with me, we could have spent hours,
Yeah.
sessions, multiple sessions trying to get at what this little piece is, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
share those, right?
Yeah.
When you have a coach or a therapist or whoever you're working with, you can't, if you really want help, if you really want to make some change, you have to be so forthcoming with the person you want help from. Otherwise, you're the one who's controlling that whole situation and you're not going to get
Yeah.
what you need. You're going to stay
Yeah.
stuck.
Yeah. And like, and then the power, and like, I think this is where we started this, like the power that the writing does in there, it's like you really, like if you're even gonna make it up on the page, that's like a whole other thing, right? Because it's something when words just fall out of our mouth, and yeah, we have lots of people pleasing tendencies, and we have lots of narratives that we've crafted, and all of these stories, right? And they can fall out of our mouth really easily, even with a therapist or a coach, and we can be there sort of like repeating these same old things, or these, kind of like little white lies.
Yeah.
But then when you have to write it down on the page, then it's like you're lying to yourself, right? You're no
Yeah.
longer lying to the other person, you're lying to yourself because
Yeah.
it's you on the page there. And you have a deeper sort of reckoning with yourself, I think,
Yeah.
when we see like the words on the paper in this more concrete way.
Oh, I can't tell you how many times when I was doing my takeaway work after our sessions where I'd write stuff out and I'd be like, "Is that really true, Wendy?" you know, like,
Mhm.
okay, nobody else is right. So, and it's when you go, okay, nobody else is going to read this,
Yeah, yeah.
then you can, you be a little bit more. Well, I mean, you should be fully transparent with yourself, right? But how fascinating. I mean, with your background, you are a psychotherapist, right? Like that was your and you've
Yeah.
got lots more background and trainings as well in that. So what is it that makes us have the ability to lie to ourselves?
Mm.
How do I
Yeah,
that could be a whole
right?
podcast in and of itself or a whole
Yeah.
university program, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, and I think it is really tied to the people pleasing tendency, and this our attachment to our identity, and really be needing it to be something specific, needing it to be something that like it both attaches us to other people and keeps us really solid and strong. And I think that, yeah, like we need that identity and that belonging so much that we can even end up lying to ourselves and not even notice, like not even be aware that that's what we're doing, because it's so much part of our culture, it's so much part of our training, and all genders, but particularly women, right? We are trained very much to take care of others. I remember when I still lived in Vancouver, and there was a woman who, she was a mom. She just had one child, I think, and her daughter was just a little bit younger than mine. Um, but I remember her reflecting on, like, look at me, and I'm doing all this mothering, and I've taken all these things, and it's so hard for me to self-care, and I can't find time for the workout, and I can't do this. And she goes, but like my husband, like he can still find the time for all those things. And it was just like his masculine energy could still put himself first, because that's always, that's been supported in patriarchy, that they can put their energy first, but we've been taught to like put their energy first too, right? And make sure we're kind of holding up everybody in the whole rest of the world. And for me, I feel that like I have two sons, so I feel like I hold up the whole world. And and we don't even notice. Like it, even for it's work I'm doing for myself right now, where I'm like, oh my gosh, look at me thinking that I have to hold up the whole world. Look at me thinking that I'm this person, that this is my job. Look at me saying, really sometimes even like really small no's where I don't even, oh, I don't notice until afterwards. Oh, now I'm really tired. Now I'm really worn out. How did I get there? Oh, because I said yes to that thing that maybe it was small and I didn't think it was a big deal, but oh, it shifted my day or something like that. Like I had that happen last week. I said yes to a little task because somebody had to do it. And it just changed my whole day because
Yes.
suddenly I was driving in traffic and looking for parking and getting frustrated and having to cancel the meeting because I was late. And I was like, oh, I was just trying to be helpful. And
Yes.
it took hours of my life away.
Yeah. Just that learning to say, and like no is a perfectly acceptable answer
Yeah.
when
And
somebody asks a people pleaser for a favor. We are
yeah,
allowed to say no.
yeah. And these things can, like, I think we also have to start to accept like these things can not get done. Like maybe not everything has to be perfect. In
Mhm.
that situation last week, like if I hadn't done that, well, maybe that wouldn't have happened, right? Like maybe we wouldn't have had the gift bags for the event. Maybe we need to be okay sometimes that we're not going to have the gift bags for the event because we want everybody instead to feel really like rested and present and capable of being there.
Right.
Um, and I think that's the thing. Like we have to give up some of these really high expectations we have of ourselves so that we can actually have like the proper expectations of
Right.
ourselves. Like
Like
let's
everything
feel
doesn't
good.
have to be just perfect, right? Like why do we have to get, have everybody run ragged, stressed through the hoop just so somebody could have a gift bag? And I have no
Right?
idea what you're like, just so somebody could have a gift bag, right? Like it's for what are we doing? Like, what are
Yeah.
we doing? Is the little bit of praise about, oh, that little detail was amazing. Like, is that little tiny little piece of crack worth it? Because that's what it is, right? It just gives you that little dopamine hit, like, you know.
Yeah.
So it's that perfectionism with the people pleasing, like they're kind of intertwined, what I'm seeing in the work
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I'm
And we
doing
want
for myself.
Yeah, yeah, and I think particularly with women, we see that perfectionism and the people pleasing. Like I think when we see people pleasing in men, it often looks a bit different. Like it looks a bit more like some emotional caretaking, I think, depending on the kind of mother they grew up with and stuff like that. But yeah, I think for women it is. It's really tied to this perfectionism, this image. Um, we want to be, well, like in that instance, I wanted to be a helpful person, right? Like that's a good person to be. Yeah, hey, that, so and so can't do that. Yeah, I could do that, right? But finding our pause, right? It's always that like finding the pause before we react so that we take that moment and go, okay, wait a second, I could do this, but is that going to be like is that in my best interest, right? Is that in the best interest of everybody?
Yeah.
And learning to have that pause and that noticing when it's about to happen
But
before,
even doing that, like for a people pleaser, that's hard,
yeah,
right? It's
it's
amazing
so hard.
how deep it all goes. Like I'll share a little story with you about I had a experience on the weekend doing a mid-level dose of 5-MeO, and I was in my experience and fully present and looking around and everything, and then I was laying down, and then I asked my husband to just start massaging my back a little bit because I've been having this pain in my back for like the last 2 weeks, and it just no massage, no nothing has been letting it go. So I asked him, while I was still under the effects of the medicine, if he could do a little bit of body work to try and do some kind of somatic release to let some stuck energy go. And as soon as he just started pushing in one little spot on my back, like I felt like a crackling in like my energetic body, and everything came out, and I just started to bawl. And I was like, I don't have to carry the weight of the world on my shoulders. Other people's emotions are not my responsibility. And you know something? I know this. Like fundamentally, I know that, right?
Yeah.
But in our subconscious, we still do it. And that's that whole people pleaser thing. And I felt like such a wave of relief. Like all of this, just my back's been fine. Like since then, that was Sunday, and it's been completely fine since then. And I'm navigating some issues still with fallout from the book. And I knew that it wasn't going to be a little path of roses after the book got released. I was ready for different viewpoints and opinions and whatnot. So that has been weighing on my shoulders lately, right? Of people's reactions and whatnot. And that experience for me was like, it doesn't matter. Like all those experiences, they are their experiences for whoever is reacting, however they're reacting. And it's not up to me to, because I was considering taking the book off. I was considering pulling the book back and not putting it out there, because I was just
Isn't
going
that
through.
amazing? Like you were debating and very seriously considering removing your story from the world so somebody else could be more comfortable.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
That's
yeah.
intense, right? Like
Right?
that just kind of like gave me
How
shivers. Like
deep it
that's crazy,
goes.
right? Like that's
Yeah,
what we're doing, and that's kind of what we're doing all the time in a way. It's like quieting or minimizing our story so that others what like feel a little bit better. Like I don't think it really it's not going to change their life.
no,
Like it's not going to make them suddenly not have whatever issues they have that are making them react to our
right?
story.
Taking the book down doesn't change the story, right?
No,
It doesn't
no,
make the
it doesn't
last six
change
years
their
not
stuff.
happen.
Yeah. Yeah, but we'll hide ourselves and our truth to make sure what somebody else is a little bit more comfortable. But
Yeah,
it's just incredible what we'll do,
yeah.
right?
And so I've been really working with that, integrating that experiencing, trying to understand, like, where is that coming from? What does that mean? What is this trying to show me? And this is something that I literally just realized. This is why I say psychedelics are like the gift that keeps on giving, right? So my very first ayahuasca experience that I did like 2.5 years ago, when I saw all the masks, right? I looked
Hmm.
up and I saw like 1,000 different versions of me staring back at me. So I've been working through all of that. And then just in the last couple of days, I was like, I need to grieve every mask individually.
Mm, yeah.
I didn't, I was coming at it from a perspective of grieving that people pleaser piece. But the
Hmm.
people pleaser is almost like the ringleader of a whole bunch of other masks,
Hmm.
right? Like all different wounded parts and exiles. And I mean, we could get into a whole IFS, you
Yeah.
know, discussion as well. But I didn't, I didn't even think about how I'm going to have to go in and grieve each each one of those personas, and I can't do it until I actually am calling on one of those masks. Like I have to wait almost until a life circumstance comes into my path where that mask, I'm reaching for it, right? And it's like, oh, hold on a second. Hold on. What are you doing? You don't need this. And then going through that process of letting go of what that mask gave me.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
it
And
Really?
remembering, like, I think like that's yeah, I love that realization of grief, because grief can only exist where love exists. And these masks, although ultimately not of our benefit, and sort of in doing parts works and yeah, the IFS stuff, right? Like it's all there for a reason,
Yep.
right? Like those are there, and those masks have been doing important work throughout your life. And yeah, they love you, and you have a love to them, and there is grief there. And it's only in really recognizing their, like, yeah, we can't minimize that even, right? Like we can't minimize our experiences and be like, oh yeah, that people pleaser, I just tossed her aside. No, she's in all these spaces and all of these identities of us. And yeah, we got to check each one and be like, like, thank you for all the ways you protected me and all the ways you kept me safe. And now I have the ability to do it in a different way. I'm so grateful you were there when I needed you. I don't need you anymore. Thank you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's this whole like and when we first started talking and I did my first bit of writing was when we titled we wrote a manifesto, right? Like that was the work that you and I were doing. I don't even remember how long the container was, but we were it was 3 months, I think. And and
Yeah, and I think
and
we extended it a bit because you did some
I was off to
I think
Peru
you
for a
went
little
to
while.
Peru in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So we took a little hiatus while I was off in the
yeah,
Andes doing some really some really deep work, which gave me some even more writing material to
yeah,
use, after we got back. But the title of the manifesto was going from people pleaser to boundary setter. And it's so interesting how it's such a fundamental thing that impacts such a big swath of our personal and professional lives, right? Like it permeates everything
yeah,
when you're being motivated by those people pleasing tendencies, right?
yeah,
Like you're
yeah,
automatically somebody else is in front of you in line always.
yeah,
If you're
yeah.
people, you're never at the front of the
Yeah.
line ever.
And it just like the thing that I just kind of like keep getting stunned by the more and more that I untangle people pleasing by seeing myself and others is that like it just it doesn't please anybody. Like it doesn't, like, particularly I find one place I'm really enjoying disentangling this, and I actually imagine you too, is in my romantic relationship. And it's not an old, multi-decade relationship. It's newer, it's a couple years. So we get to create these new habits and patterns as smarter, more evolved adults, right? And it's incredible the number of times, if we don't have a lot of conflicts, but like if a conflict comes up, when we start to undo it, it's like, oh, I people pleased you there, and oh, you people pleased me here, and then that, and then that, and then that's how that happened, right? We were both not being 100% honest about what we wanted in that situation or what we needed or whatever, right? We were kind of like, oh, it's like,
Crazy, eh?
wow, look at, and we made a problem by trying to
To
people
not have
please
one.
instead of being honest. We created a problem.
Right? Well, and that's what happens. So people pleasing, it's like everybody can agree on the premise that it's not healthy to be a people pleaser, right? Like for the person that's the people pleaser. But it's also damaging to the other people as well,
It
right?
really
Because
is.
we're taking learning opportunities away from them, right? Like
Mhm.
if we're, and this was, there's a lot of things that I did very, very right as a mom, right? Like I was a really good mom to my kids. Like I'm not bashing myself as a mom at all. I also recognize where I misstep, right? And I know that I ran a lot of interference for my kids as they were growing up, right? Whether it be with friends, with I remember times where my daughter she got invited to do something and she didn't want to go, but she didn't tell them that she didn't want to go. So I was like, just tell them I said I wasn't letting you go. Right. And that seems like such an innocent little thing to do. But man, like what a missed opportunity where she could have said, like we were talking about earlier, being honest and saying, I don't feel like coming tonight. Right? Like what an opportunity I missed where I could have coached her and shown her how she can be honest with people, right? So I taught my kids to be people pleasers and to not hurt people's feelings, right? It's kind of turning around and biting me in the ass right now, but you know,
I remember even when my kids were, I don't know, maybe sort of like 4 and 6 or 5 and 7. I even remember telling them how we want to pay attention to how other people feel and make sure like we're doing things to help them feel good. And like
right?
this is coming out of my mouth. And like, so one, yeah, we do want to be conscientious of others and we want to be empathetic. But like after I said these things, I was like,
Wild.
what did I just tell my children? Oh my God.
Yeah.
And ultimately it comes down like, how do we make such a shift from people pleasing individually, but also in sort of family and community and this ripple out of culture. Like, how do we make that shift so that we can be conscientious and empathetic and caring and even caretaking when it's appropriate without being people pleasing? That's the magic,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
and maybe one day we'll get there and children will then be taught properly and people won't have to go through this in their 40s and their 50s and all of this of like, how do I take care of myself? But
Yeah. It's
what
like we have
what a
to
thing.
it's coming back to that place of being that observer, right? And like so you said being conscientious of other people's emotions and feelings and needs and whatnot, but being able to take that pause in there to see, am I am I sacrificing any of my own comfort, right? Like I think it's teaching people to be aware of what they're doing, why they're doing it, and if they're putting themselves aside. And we do have to put ourselves aside sometimes. I'm not saying that we always
Sometimes,
have to be
yeah.
completely selfish and always front of the line, but there has to be a lot of discernment, more discernment than what there is right now. I mean, when I was in Ottawa, I got to see some family and I got to spend some time with my little nephew. And when I was leaving, he didn't want to give me a hug. And my sister-in-law loved it. Like she was like, give Auntie Wendy a hug. She's leaving and you're not going to see her. And he wasn't comfortable giving me a hug. And I was like, it's okay. Like, it's okay you know
Yeah.
he's just a little
Yeah.
guy. And I was really okay with him not giving me a hug, but I could see how it was making other people uncomfortable that
Yeah.
he wouldn't give me a hug. I'm like, I'm good. Like, this little 3.5-year-old isn't going to knock me off my center because he doesn't want to give me a hug. Like, if he doesn't want to give me a hug, he
Yeah.
doesn't have to give me a hug. And it wasn't a big thing. Like, it didn't turn into anything. Like, I was like, it's all good. It's all right.
But
We
that's
do a little fist bump or something.
yeah, yeah. I think that's where the change is. The long-term real change is in how we learn to respect children,
Mhm.
right? And we don't force them to give the hug. We don't force. It's really incredible when you look at parenting and how much of our parenting is sort of traditional parenting is like really pushing kids past their feelings all the
Yeah,
time. Like finish the food on your plate. What if the child is full, right? Eat right now. What if the child's not hungry,
yeah,
right? Like give the hug, say you're sorry. What if the child's not sorry,
right.
right? Like we're forcing this all the time. We're forcing children to learn to go against what is true for them. And then we wonder why adults are depressed and anxious and
right?
can't have relationships and don't know what they want in life.
And especially the little kids, right? Like the little ones, the under sevens, like those are the ones that their intuition is still on point, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
they
Yeah.
haven't
Like you
been,
want to
you know,
keep
patted
them.
down by society's expectations quite yet at that point, you know. So if a little one is honoring and respecting their inner compass, like man, we have to celebrate that and encourage that in
Yeah.
our little ones, right? And not just have them do whatever just so Auntie Wendy doesn't feel uncomfortable, you know?
Right. And like realize that it's not like I, I think well and I think one of the big things of people pleasing that people don't notice they're doing is that they're also trying to avoid their own discomfort, because if you set a boundary and now you've disappointed somebody, that person is now disappointed in you potentially, and you have to deal with that and you have to sit with that and oh, I've disappointed somebody. That's really hard. That's an
Yeah,
uncomfortable feeling, right? Like those any upset that was in that room was people like, oh no, like Wendy might be upset that the little boy doesn't want to hug her. Oh no. And they're wanting, like they feel uncomfortable now and everyone's wanting to save that. And you're like, I'm good, like me and the kid, we're good.
yeah,
Right. But everybody having feelings, and like we're so often trying to avoid any discomfort for ourselves that we feel when somebody else might feel uncomfortable or
right.
upset.
Yeah. And meanwhile, it's like, and Julia, if you're watching this, this isn't, I am not, it was just like the quickest example that I could come up with because I guarantee you, when my kids were little, I forced them to give people hugs. So I am
And
not
sorry for
saying,
sticking on it. It's just such a good example. It's so
and
lovely.
it's recent, right? Um, oh, what was now I lost what I was going to say. Oh yeah, so like
Like,
we're making like the littlest person the most uncomfortable because they can't speak up for themselves.
it's so like, yeah, sometimes I just feel like, wow, we've really gotten it so backwards the last I don't know how many generations, right? And I do think that it's the kids right now, and my background, my sort of first space that I worked in was in children's mental health, and so I still get a lot of that in my practice. Um, the kids being born now are so powerful, and they are just saying no to adults all the time. It is very different, and the adults have shifted a bit too, so they're a little bit more open and curious to this no coming from the kids. Not that it's easy for parents. I have one of those children myself, so I really, really, really know. But yeah, like there's a shift happening, and I think our little people are leading it, and I hope that we'll let them be our leaders in it.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so. I mean, I will, there's one thing with my kids, one thing that I feel I know I did right was that I've always let them be their own people, right? Like I don't think that I ever tried to live vicariously through them. If they wanted to dress however they wanted for school. I didn't give a shit what they wanted to wear to school. Like, whatever, it's you. Like, if that's what you want to wear, you wear it. And, I was
Yeah,
never one to force them to finish all the food that's on their plate. Always made them try it, but I never made them
yeah,
finish. Um, but yeah, like I would love to see this new generation of kids coming in. We need to give them more respect, like the knowledge and wisdom that's in these little bodies that are coming in. Like just because their physical bodies are newer than ours, they're coming in with fresh energies
yeah,
and ancient wisdom and knowledge that's sort of locked in their DNA. And I think we
yeah,
need to be more mindful of that and get away from from turning them into people pleasers in the first place, right? Because I can tell you after 50, it's really hard to reverse that shit. Right? Like it's deep, like it's deep, deep, deep. And even though you recognize it, there's a whole host of other things that comes along when you're trying to wean that pattern out of yourself. It's not easy. It comes like it comes with a whole host of other things that you need to deal with the grief of the identity loss and all of these other things that come out when you're trying to not be a people pleaser, because then you go from you feel like you're a people pleaser and everybody loves you and this to, oh my God, now I'm just a bitch, right? Like, so,
Yeah.
but you're not, right? But that falls into that whole people pleasing thing. Like, if I'm not people pleasing, then I'm a bitch, right? Like,
Yeah.
what a an interesting that just came out from myself like that. Interesting.
Well, and often we do see when people start to set boundaries, right, is they kind of have to go really far to the other side before they balance out and like, oh, my real boundaries are here in the middle, right? But it
Yeah,
often does feel and even sometimes sound and look like being bitchy. But that's fabulous, right? Like that's part of our growth process. And I think particularly as women, we really need to have more comfort in that space.
yeah,
And and call it whatever we want. But like I think that we need to be a bit more comfortable being bitchy sometimes.
yeah,
And knowing like, sometimes we're like that because we just haven't been listened to because nobody's been freaking listening to us for
right.
so long. Uh, and yeah, and then trust that, yeah, like it balances out once other people get used to it, right? Once we it boundary setting too, it's like one thing that I really liked about it is that it's a practice, right? So it's not like a one and done. It's like, hey, I get to test out this boundary and communicating it with this person.
Yeah,
Ooh, that went well, or that didn't go well. What could I do? Okay, now I'm gonna try this boundary with this person over
yeah,
here. And
yeah,
we get to learn so much as we go.
yeah, yeah. And I think with the boundaries, um, boundaries, it's so important, right? Like, and if you go through your life, I know that that was a big thing for me is I just didn't have them. Like, they were just non-existent. And I think that's part of the people pleasing as well, is that I'm accessible. I will put up with whatever because I can help. Like,
Mm,
I was kind of known as Switzerland in my family, right? Like,
yeah.
Wendy's the peacekeeper, you know. Um, but with the boundaries and what I've
Oh,
been
no wonder
learning,
they're so upset now.
I know, right? Yeah, I know. Listen, I know I've brought this all on myself and I get it. Um, with the boundaries, though, when you do start setting boundaries, it's the three, like you have to communicate your boundaries to people. You can't just like have boundaries that you set in your head and then
Mm,
other people are just sort of at the mercy of your phantom boundaries, whatever you have. Like, you have to set your boundary, you've got to communicate your boundary, and you have to enforce your boundary. And I'd like to use analogies with people, and I was like, it's like when I had when we lived in Ottawa, Ben had a place out in Bars. He had a big farm, and my dog would just kind of go. So we installed an invisible fence, right? So we had to put the collar on Rocky. We had to put the fence out. So we had to establish the boundary. So we had to bury the line and put the boundary out. And then we had to train the dog. So we had to communicate the boundaries. So we had to, teach Rocky where the boundary was of the electric fence. And then we had, like, part of the training was having to turn the collar on. So we had to enforce, and that's how he learned the boundaries, because if he was getting close to the boundary, he'd get a little bit of a warning, right? And it's
mm,
no different. It's no different at all with setting boundaries in our personal lives. Like, we have to do our planning and understand what our boundaries are. We have to communicate them to people, and we have to let people know you're getting close to a boundary, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
do this little training piece, because otherwise people are gonna be like, what's going on? Like, why are they just not talking to me anymore? Or
Yeah.
there's so much confusion,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's those boundaries. And I think I noticed for myself when I'm upset about something or feeling like somebody's taking advantage of me or whatever, I can 99% of the time bring it back to I didn't enforce boundaries,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So I'm not mad at
Totally.
them. I'm mad at myself, really,
Yeah.
even though I am mad
Yeah.
at them. But then if I take a few breaths and think about it, I'm actually mad at myself. Like
Yeah.
I could have communicated my boundary better or
Yeah.
did a little bit more enforcement action along the way.
Yeah. And that's hard because then we have to take responsibility instead of making it somebody else's fault. Right. And so that's hard. Like, I gotta see, I did this to myself,
Yeah,
right? That's a difficult state to be
yeah,
in.
yeah,
I want to say one other thing about the invisible fence analogy. Like I love that. And so you did all that work, all that boundary setting, and all that work, all that training, all those things led to your dog having the freedom and safety that he can
yeah,
have. So
yeah,
so all of those boundaries made Rocky's experience better.
yeah. And mine, right?
And yours,
And
right? For
everybody,
sure,
everybody
yours.
all
You don't have to
concerned
stress.
because I didn't have to
Yeah,
worry about him taking off, right? He
yeah,
knew what his boundaries were
yeah,
and he knew,
yeah.
there's some other things like we had a hard time getting him to get in the car when we were leaving because he
Oh,
was afraid because he knew that the car would have to cross the
mhm,
boundary.
mhm,
So we had
mhm,
to do a little bit of extra work with him to let him know that this is an okay bound, like this is
yeah,
the right. So we had to do a
yeah.
little bit of extra work with him to really show him how the boundaries work, you know?
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. That you'll take good care of him.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
dogs, people, can we put
Yeah.
collars on them and just.
Yeah. And seeing like the benefit that it gives, right? When we do it, like
Yeah,
it makes everybody happier in the end,
yeah,
right? It doesn't people pleasing doesn't actually like please people in the
yeah,
long term.
yeah. And yeah. And the boundaries, it's practice, right? Like and like you said earlier, practice small. Start with it's training yourself to use your no,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
a little
Finding
bit.
the easiest places first to do it, right? And
Yeah.
build on it. Like
Yeah. And just because you
it,
feel like this feels really good to say no right
yeah.
now. Even though
Yeah.
I could say yes, like there's no valid reason to not say yes, right? But just because there isn't a reason, at least sometimes you can say no just because I don't feel like it and I don't want
Yeah.
to. It's a
Yeah.
perfectly valid no, you
Yeah.
know? So yeah. And that was, I would say doing the writing work with you was really where I saw the people pleasing jumping out at me from the page. Be- and
Mhm.
and just because of little details that I was writing in the story, right? When I know I talked about the butter chicken, right? Like I was there and I was doing this butter chicken and I was so proud of myself and I was just like I was in like probably not probably like the biggest crisis of my life that I've ever had to experience. And here I am still worrying about making a butter chicken, hoping that my kids are going to like it. Right.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
seeing it on paper, it was like, wow, like I'm going through all of this and I'm still looking for some kind of validation about a stupid recipe. So seeing that on paper was like, wow, you got some
Yeah.
work
Yeah.
to
Because
do.
you get to like, you see the unfolding of your experience rather than being in it
Yeah.
and noticing that. I remember one thing, like often in our sessions, you would say, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I don't know. I don't know. And one day I gave you the prompt of, okay, well, what do you know?
Hmm.
Right? That's a big, because that can be a big people pleasing thing. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Right. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. Well, wait a second. What do you know? You know
Yeah.
something. You don't know all the answers. You don't know all
Yeah.
the things.
That was a
I
tough
know.
one. I remember that one too. I was like, ooh,
Right?
shit, what do I know?
Yeah.
Not a
And then
whole
it's
lot.
going to be about you, right? What do I know? Not like what does that person know that I've decided to like
Yeah,
take, but
yeah,
what do I
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yeah.
So interesting stuff, hey, this whole
Yeah.
people pleaser. So what
Oh,
were you, we'll start wrapping up here now. This has been really a really good conversation. Thank you. What would you kind of put out as a starting point for somebody? Like if they're feeling like they know, like I've known for a long time that I was people pleasing. I might not have had the words for it or, the actual structure around it. Like what would be something that's like a quick win that somebody could sort of implement or pay attention to?
yeah. I think people should notice when, and again, maybe particularly women, I think they should notice when they're irritable. This is irritability is really particularly like in the mental health space, and I do work with couples as well. Like irritability is a really common issue and generally attributed to women in heterosexual relationships. Um, that irritability comes after you have done something you didn't have the real resources to do, right? And so if there's a point in your day where you're consistently getting irritable or there's yeah, just notice like when am I getting irritated? What's happening in those few hours before that irritation comes up? What am I saying yes to that I need to be saying no to? Where am I not taking care of myself in that time? Right? It's such a common pattern where we give ourselves up. We're still pushing hard because we gotta make dinner or get the kids off somewhere or go grab the groceries or go to the appointment. So we push through, and then a few hours later, we're miserable and we're irritable and we don't really know what's wrong. And it's that thing we did 4 hours before or,
Right.
at some point earlier that just took us off
Yeah.
track.
So
Yeah.
noticing, observing,
Noticing. Yeah.
and writing it down, right?
Noticing.
And
And don't just be like, oh, I'm irritable and I'm a bitch. No, right? Like, and people tell me that, they're like, I just kind of thought I was a bitchy person. Well, no, like, let's see. So if you feel irritable at this time of day, let's backtrack a little bit. What's happening?
right.
Like, don't, it's not just you. There's something going on that's led you to feel that way, and that's
Yeah.
important and valid. And let's take some time to figure it out.
Yeah. And that's pretty easy starting point, right? And
Yeah.
that's where it all starts to unfurl from there. I mean, my little manifesto with you has turned into a whole bunch of healing and a book and helping other people, you know? So don't even I never would have said that I was a writer, you know. I never would have thought that 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 writing therapy would have been such a catalyst. That's a
Yeah.
catalyst point.
And to make clear for anybody who listens to this, like in general, people who write with me are not publishing what they write. Like some are for sure go on to write memoir like you did, but a lot of folks aren't. It is just their own writing for their own experience and their own exploration. And so yeah, you don't have to feel like you're a writer or
Yeah,
be like,
right.
oh,
Because it's
I'm not
not
a writer.
writing lessons, right? Like it's you
No,
didn't
it's
teach
not writing
how to write a
lessons.
book and edit a book. Like that's not like when you
No.
do this work, it's not to like you said, you're not publishing something and putting it out. It's I found it was the modality that I was able to be the most honest with myself
Yeah,
when I was
because it's just
alone
you.
with the questions,
Yeah.
you know? So interesting stuff. So what's coming up for you? Anything exciting?
Right now, what is really beautiful in my business is these seasonal writing workshops that I'm doing. So right now we're in the middle of our Fall into Darkness series. So I'm in the Northern Hemisphere. And so playing a bit with this season change and this darker time. And instead of fearing it or resisting it, asking like, hey, what is the beauty in the dark? And so last week, at boundaries, we were talking about, yeah, like, where the dark and the light meet and the boundaries they support each other with, and it's so cool. So we're in the middle of that now. There'll be a winter series coming up as well that will do the similar kind of stuff, and it's really fun. It's really fun work. It's really juicy work to dig into those. Yeah, just like what are our beliefs around things, even words like dark. I'm also doing some workshops right now in a men's recovery center. And a couple of weeks ago, I told them to write about the word soft, and it was really like these are tough ex-cons, like they couldn't really come up with soft as a positive thing. But, we keep writing and we keep exploring and they like, oh yeah, like soft is strong. Yeah, it is, right?
Right? Yeah.
So I just love the work I do, and
Awesome.
it's just beautiful what writing and words can offer us. So
Yeah. Well, I am super grateful for you, and yeah, thank you for coming on to talk to people about this work. I think it's really really important, and it's, like I said, it was a real catalyst for me to be able to really be truthful with myself, to start getting out of my own way, you know.
yeah.
So
Well, I'm so glad we got to do the work together, and I was very honored to hold that space for you, and I think like I'm so grateful you're bringing. Yeah, we need more and more of this conversation of how to not be people pleasers, and I think anybody having that conversation, it's just so important. We really, really need to shift this pattern.
yeah,
So yeah.
awesome.